Hi, I'm Nick Miller, and thank you for tuning in to Electric You, a place where you can get great ideas for generating a better you. In part one of the video series, The Sugar High, I provided information on which foods make up the total consumption of added sugar for the average person. I also provided information on how to identify which types of added sugar you should watch out for when reading the ingredient list on food packaging. Now let's take a deeper dive. Today I'm going to provide you with some eye-opening details about how the body reacts to sugar consumption. But let me start by letting you know about the sources I use to conduct my research for this video series. Those sources are located in the video description. Please make sure to check them out for yourself and then do your own due diligence to find additional information so that you aren't just taking this video series as the final word. Also, if you haven't already seen part one of the Sugar High video series, you might want to check out that video first. Let's get started. Using brain scanning technology, scientists at the U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse were among the first to show that sugar causes changes in people's brains similar to those in people addicted to drugs such as cocaine and alcohol. These changes are linked to a heightened craving for more sugar, whereby a tolerance for sugar develops, and over time, more sugar is needed to get the same level of pleasure. This finding has prompted wide-scale research on the potentially addictive properties of sugar. For some people, eating sugar produces characteristics of craving and withdrawal, along with chemical changes in the brain's reward center, the limbic system. The limbic system is responsible for creating our feelings and motivation. Addictive drugs disrupt the careful balance of chemicals that make up our normal behavior. When our brain's chemical balance is misaligned with reality, we receive artificial feelings of relief, pleasure, contentment, and relaxation. The U.S. National Library of Medicine published an article in 2007 from the Princeton University Department of Psychology which indicates, sugar is noteworthy as a substance that releases opioids and dopamine and thus might be expected to have addictive potential. Their review summarizes evidence of sugar dependence in lab rats. The review analyzed the four main components of addiction: binging, withdrawal, craving, and something called cross-sensitization, where addiction to one substance makes it easy to become addicted to another substance that uses the same brain chemistry. However, the same organization published a more recent article in 2016 from Cambridge University, UK, which concludes, given the lack of evidence supporting it, we argue against a premature incorporation of sugar addiction into the scientific literature and public policy recommendations. Outside of the research, I think we can all agree that for many of us, consuming sugar usually leaves us eating more than we know is healthy, binging. We feel terrible when we go without sugar, withdrawal, and we have periods where we focus solely on our desire to obtain and eat more sugar, craving. Let's take a close look at how the body metabolizes or processes sugar. The body's 37 trillion cells can use glucose directly for energy, but for the record, most cells can also use fatty acids for energy. We also have approximately 5 liters of blood circulating throughout our body at any given time. But here's something important to consider. We only need approximately 1 teaspoon of sugar to carry out our daily routine. Furthermore, notable authorities on health state women should not consume more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day, and men should not consume more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. Statistics show that the average American consumes around 22 teaspoons of sugar per day. That calculates to about 77 pounds of sugar in a year. So how does the body deal with all that sugar? First, it is important to understand that there are two main sources of sugar we get from food: glucose and fructose. They are both simple sugars, but they are metabolized very differently. Let's first talk about glucose. Glucose is the main source of energy your body uses. Glucose is metabolized by several organs, including the brain, liver, and muscles. Glucose has a direct effect on blood sugar and insulin levels, and here's how. Eating food or drinking almost anything other than plain water causes a rise in your body's blood glucose level because glucose is absorbed into your blood from the gastrointestinal tract. Next, when your body senses there's an elevated amount of glucose in your blood, that signals your pancreas to release insulin, which allows your body's cells to take in glucose for energy. Think of insulin as the doorman at a very exclusive nightclub called the Cell. Imagine there's a long line of glucose just waiting and hoping to be allowed in. But the only way in is if Mr. Insulin says it's okay. So basically, you need insulin to let glucose into your body's cells, otherwise your cells can't get the fuel they need to survive. As a result of insulin doing its job, you are left with less sugar in your bloodstream, and so your blood sugar level usually returns to something at or near normal. If you consume more glucose than what your cells need, some of the excess glucose is stored as glycogen, or energy reserves. And when those energy reserves are full, all the glucose that's left over is stored as fat deposits in two places: under the skin as subcutaneous fat, or around our organs as visceral fat. We've covered a lot of information about sugar, but there's still so much more to come. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when part 3 is uploaded.